It's 14 June. It's Sunday. I'm Charlie Garrett, and this is the CG Prophecy Report. Sewer moles in the Big Apple. That and a lot of other things to go over on today's report. Okay, first thing before I get into the news from Israel, I got two things. The first one is that this past week, for the very first time in my life, we had a earthquake. And it was 6.4 magnitude. It was off the coast of Cuba. And I was sitting there typing my sermon, and the whole house started to shake. It felt great because it was a rolling one, not a shifting one and not a bouncing one, because it was so far away and the depth of it. Some people felt it. Ron said he felt it. My daughter-in-law had some people at the hospital that felt it. I guess you had to be like sitting down or in the right place, because if you're walking on the street, you would not have felt this. But I was in Japan, and we would have some big earthquakes over there. Nothing like that, but just let you know that the earth is changing, apparently, because we've had an earthquake in the Gulf of Mexico. Then the second thing is that we got some visitors from Kansas City, Missouri. We've got John and we've got Pat, and they've been down here for a couple days. They showed up, and I thought, well, they're here and they'll go away quickly, and they just keep staying. So apparently they're going to be here for a few more days, and so make sure you welcome them. And you probably heard the lady in back go, yay. That's because she and her daughter are these giant Kansas City fans. I think it's the Kansas City, I was going to say something, Kansas City, I don't know, the Kansas City Cars or something. I don't know. I don't know anything about baseball or basketball or any of that kind of stuff, but they're very excited about Kansas City, and so they're like fellowshipping with these two people that showed up. And it's great to have you guys here. Let's see here. We've got some news from Israel, from the Times of Israel. France bars Israel from leading defense expo, sparking outcry from Jerusalem. It's just so sad when they're providing this military capability to Europe, and they're buying it in Europe, but they won't let them go to the expos. And it makes no sense, but it's become fashionable to hate Israel and hate the Jews once again. And if you think about it, this is October 7th of 2 years ago. And they were attacked. They were quietly living their lives, and they were attacked by Islamic terrorists that went in and killed a bunch of people, raped a bunch of women, kidnapped people, and the world now hates the Jews for being raped and killed and targeted. It makes no sense, but this is the world in which we live in. So, France has barred Israel from participating in this month's Eurosatory defense exhibit in Paris, the defense ministry said, preventing the ministry from establishing a national pavilion or sending government representatives to the event. Eurosatory is one of the world's leading defense expos, showcasing military systems and other security innovations from across the globe. French authorities will only permit Israeli companies to display air defense systems while prohibiting the exhibition of offensive weapon systems. In a sharply worded statement, the ministry condemned the move as a disgraceful decision, driven by political and commercial calculation, accusing France of applying discriminatory restrictions to Israel that are not imposed on other participating countries, in direct violation of the established norms governing international defense exhibitions. So nobody else, if Iran wanted to sell offensive weapons there, you can have your booth, even though Iran has been building nuclear capability for years in violation of every UN sanction, and nobody does anything about it. But Israel gets attacked by enemies, and they're prohibited from things. It's just typical of the way the world is working, which, if you think about it, it's a vindication of Scripture, because the Bible does say that Israel would be regathered. They would eventually be the focus of the nations, and then they would enter into the millennium with Christ as the head. And that is not without incident building up to that point. And so this is the kind of thing that you're getting up to that point. France is acting in direct contradiction to the principles it claims to uphold, the defense ministry added, arguing that Israeli offensive systems have demonstrated their effectiveness against terrorist organizations and regimes, threatening not only Israel, but regional and global stability at large. Similarly, French authorities initially banned Israeli defense firms from exhibiting at the 2024 Eurosatory before later reversing the decision. So this is a couple years ago. Organizers erected black partition walls around Israeli company exhibits displaying offensive weapon systems at the 2025 Paris Air Show. So everybody else is out open selling their stuff, and Israel is put behind these black partitions. The most recent ban came amid growing tensions between Jerusalem and Paris. In April, the Defense Ministry halted all defense procurement from France in response to French measures that it said harmed Israel's security, including prohibiting Israeli aircraft from using French airspace during the U.S.-led war on Iran. The U.S. also claimed that France refused it the use of its airspace for military purposes during the war. Further straining France's relationship with Israel is its exclusion from mediating direct talks between Israel and Lebanon in Washington. The absence is not for lack of interest, with Macron offering in March for his country to host direct talks between Israel and Lebanon, and telling President Herzog over the phone that France is working to promote this goal. Macron said that nothing justifies the major escalation underway in South Lebanon, following France's request for an emergency meeting of the UNSC after Israeli forces seized the medieval Beaufort Castle in Lebanon. Macron also criticized Israel's defense establishment during the Iran war, openly condemning the scale of the U.S.-Israeli campaign against the Islamic Republic and urging a diplomatic solution to the conflict and a halt to fighting in Lebanon against the Iran-backed Hezbollah terror group. Now, most people don't report on this, but you will see every single day in Israel, they will publish when they were attacked and by whom they were attacked and how many missiles were sent in. Every single time since their original ceasefire, Hezbollah has sent in hundreds and hundreds of drones and missiles. Israel will then respond. They never are the aggressor. They respond, and yet Israel becomes the aggressor. It makes no sense at all what's going on in the world, but that is just the way the world is heading. It's like, what's going on in Europe. They open their borders. They're letting in all of the terrorists they can possibly bring into their countries, people that will never assimilate into their countries, and that's considered normal. It's what Biden did for 4 years. He opened the floodgates for anybody, including terrorists from Iran and other countries, to come in. And now we've got this giant mess that we are trying to correct. And why these things are happening is beyond me, except something has got infected in the minds of people, and it's only getting worse. It's not going to get better. From the Times of Israel. Sorry, there are no Jews allowed. Israelis denied booking at a German hotel. This is like going back to the 30s. Hotel Zum Hirschen in Lahm, Bavaria. Booking site removes hotel from listings after complaint filed. From All Israel, Canadian Prime Minister says country is failing Jewish citizens amidst highest levels of anti-Semitism since World War II. Well, when you keep importing Muslims that have no affinity for your country or any Jews that have been there for a couple hundred years, that's what you can expect. But they're not putting two and two together, or they are purposefully doing this, hoping that the Jews will leave or something. Whatever their scheming is, they say one thing, but they are allowing other things. From the Times of Israel, in California primaries, Jewish voters face a slate of races shaped by Israel and anti-Semitism. Times of Israel. Anti-Semitic hate crimes spiked in New York City last month. New York Police Department figures showed anti-Jewish incidents in May went up 46% compared to the previous 3 months. New York University student arrested for flying a swastika flag over a school building. Well, when you've got a terrorist mayor in the office that is supporting every liberal terrorist organization you can imagine and boycotting the Israel march that they have every year, you can expect this to happen. Jerusalem Post, Lapid promises marriage equality within first 100 days of new government at Jerusalem Pride Parade. So there you go. This is on the other side. This is Israel sticking their fists in God's face and saying, we're going to do what we did throughout our history, and we learned it from Sodom and Gomorrah, and we enjoyed it, and so we're going to do it again right now. Tel Aviv, gay pride parades, and all of that kind of stuff. So you've got two sides of a coin. And I've said this many times. I support Israel not because they are right with God. They are not. a large majority of the population, a significantly large majority, has their fist in God's face. They don't want anything to do with him, and that is just what you're going to find in the Israel society. But I do support Israel despite that, because God is bringing them back to himself. And someday they will be right with him. From Israel Hayom, U.S. considers Trump visit to Israel in September. So we'll see if he goes. Al-Jamaner, new survey finds a record of 74% of Israeli public supports full legal equality for LGBT community. 74% of Israel wants that agenda passed. So there you go. Got some news from Christianity. Al-Jamaner, Israeli Christian leader, U.S. Jewish pundit, exposed far-right effort to dismantle Judeo-Christian unity. This is going on in the United States right now. If you have not been paying attention, then you might not know this, but there is a large rift in the conservative movement between those who support Israel and those who don't, and the ones who don't are affecting the ones who do, to the point where now it is swinging this way. In a sit-down discussion at David's Harp Hotel in northern Israel, Shadi Kaulul and Josh Hammer castigated the notion that Israel oppresses and marginalizes Christians, an assertion popularized by far-right podcast hosts such as Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. Kaulul, founder of the Israeli Christian Aramaic Association and a former Knesset candidate, suggested that Qatar has been possibly paying Carlson to spread falsehoods about the Jewish state, noting a broader Qatari effort to ruin the reputation of the Jewish state through infiltrating popular media and trusted institutions such as university curricula. I don't know if Qatar is paying Carlson or not. This is them speculating about it. One of the conditions to accept Qatari money, according to Kaulul, who is an Arab, he's not a Jew, is to speak badly about Israel and Jews in order to weaken the state of Israel. He argued that support from the broader Christian world is essential for the state of Israel. Carlson, who in December revealed his plans to purchase a home in Qatar, has regularly accused Israel of persecuting and even killing Christians. Now, before we go on, I will say that there were a lot of Christians in places like Bethlehem. Bethlehem is run by who, Sergio? He's from Israel. Who? The Muslims. And all of these Christian communities have been almost completely wiped out by the Muslims. The Christian communities in Israel have stayed strong. Okay, now there are Christian communities in Israel that are not Israeli, okay, and that would be the Palestinian territories and stuff, and there are some problems going on there. But the Israeli Christians in Israel are a part of the society just like Jews are in America. They vote, if they want to serve in the military, they can, etc. They are not under threat in any way, shape, or form. It's a complete lie which is being passed on by these people. Okay, despite the fact that they enjoy freedom and equal opportunity in the Jewish state. In February, Kaulul invited Carlson to a tour of Christian communities and holy sites in Israel, including a meeting with his brother-in-law, the head of a Maronite Church of Israel, but he received no response. Kaulul argued that Muslim-majority areas such as the West Bank are more dangerous for Christians than Israel. Would you agree with that? Okay, he agrees with that, calling attention to the mistreatment they face in public venues. Conversely, he added, Israel treats Christians with dignity and respect. I know that's true. I've been there and I've lived with them for short amounts of time, and I've seen that they just function in the society like anybody else. I'm saying short amount of time. I'm talking about very short. I was not there a long time, but these are Christians that live in Israel, Arab Christians, and I see them on, FaceTime and all that constantly, and they're living out their lives very safely. You will not be able to walk freely in markets without being harassed by Muslims. It's a culture in which they do not know what respect is. Unfortunately, I don't know why. Kaulul cautioned that the Islamic world's campaign against Israel is part of a larger crusade against Western civilization, contending that Islamists will not relent until they eventually capture Europe. Under the Islamic world's holy doctrine, whatever was conquered by them in the 7th century and it was occupied them should not come back to the original people. It becomes Islamic land. However, Kaulul lamented the rise of what he called Jewish extremists in the West Bank, something that, the ambassador over there, Huckabee, also brought up. And this is an issue that this guy is worried about and Huckabee was worried about, arguing that the documented attacks by settlers harms Israel's image and inflames tension with the global Christian community. So you can see the double standard. You've got the Muslim communities that are all over Christians. They're persecuting them, driving them out, and nobody says a word. You've got some settlers that are out on the fringe that are harming Christian communities, and they become the focal point of everything people like Tucker Carlson are bringing up. It's a total, complete double standard. They close progress to all of us. They make damage to the Israeli reputation, even though they don't represent even 0.5% of the population. Little fringe groups out in the occupied territories that are taking over Christian lands, and that gets all of the focus and attention. Kalul also revealed that he's helping spearhead a project to build the world's only town catering to the Aramaic Christian faith, an opportunity he contends only the Jewish state makes possible. Meanwhile, Hammer, senior editor-at-large of Newsweek and host of the Josh Hammer Show, lamented the rise of anti-Semitism on the American political right, describing it as a part of a broader effort to weaken Western civilization as a whole. Very sad state. People are not picking up their Bible and reading it. Or if they are, they're reading the parts that make them feel good, but they are not reading it with the idea of what God is doing in the world and what is coming in the world. Because if they took that view, they would not be having this attitude. I'm very angry at Israel for their gay pride and the other things that they do that they should not be doing. I don't agree with it, just like I don't agree with what we do here in America with those things. I'm thankful that we have a president that has stopped that and is getting all of that out of our government. That's why we vote. That's why we participate. But that is not the entirety of the United States of America, and it's also not the entirety of Israel or the purpose that God has for Israel. From Time, Pope Leo uses first major papal text to warn about dangers of AI. From SPZH, papal encyclical text was written with AI, study shows. Got some news from the Mideast and Africa today. From Zero Hedge, U.S. formally rejects Somaliland sovereignty in blow to Israel. We have rejected recognizing them as a state, and that's okay. The U.S. has reaffirmed the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Somalia in a move seen as a blow to Somaliland, the breakaway region recently recognized by Israel and close to the UAE. In a report to Congress on potential areas for improved engagement with Somaliland, the State Department stated that Somaliland was included in the Federal Republic of Somalia. Within that framework, the U.S. maintains a positive, constructive relationship with Somaliland and continues to explore additional opportunities for engagement with Somaliland authorities. Israel became the first country in the world to formally recognize Somaliland on December 26. The month before, Somaliland President Mohammed secretly visited Israel, meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu and other top officials. Those other officials included Mossad Chief Barnea and Foreign Minister Sa'ar, who visited Somaliland immediately after Israel formally recognized the former British colony's sovereignty. Somaliland is hoping that Israel's recognition will be followed by the UAE, with Ethiopia, India, Cyprus, and Georgia also in their sights. A congressional source told MEE they did not expect President Trump's admin to recognize Somaliland, though lobbyists, including former Trump officials Tibor Nage and Peter Pham, had raised the hopes of Somalilanders over U.S. recognition. There was never a sign that the president would go through with it. Trump has personally singled out Somalia and Somali Americans for abuse during his second term in office. Well, it's abuse that's well-deserved, we should say. He has referred to Somalis as low IQ people. Well, when you're dealing with, what's her name, mentally Ilhan Omar, you could agree with that, and said that all Somalis are, well, I won't say what he said. It wasn't very nice, but it was true. He has said that Somali American Congresswoman Ilhan Omar is garbage and that her friends are garbage. So Trump doesn't like them. And, he does like the people of Somaliland. And it's surprising that he hasn't recognized it. But there are geopolitical things that have to be taken into consideration. From Breitbart, France, 7 in 10 believe crime is out of control and the country faces Mexicization. Mexicization means what we have in America. People are Mexicizing America. So that's become a standard term anywhere in the world where outside groups come in and take over and do not assimilate, which is actually not really true about Mexican Americans because they have come in, they do assimilate, they just keep their own cultures while they're in America. Very similar to what group of people that has been here for a couple hundred years? Chinese Americans live in their own districts, they speak their own language, they go back home and they visit their families from 150 years ago, but they remain faithful U.S. citizens. Okay, there are problems because the Chinese are also sending in people that are not friendly to America, and that's just the way it is. But for the most part, Mexicans in America, I work with a lot of them in the malls around. I take care of them all out on Siesta Key, and those guys have become great friends of mine. They're very hardworking. They have American flags that they fly, and they just love this country. So there you go. Gateway Pundit. Belgium, 9 migrant teens walk free after being found guilty of repeated gang raping a 14-year-old Belgian schoolgirl. They just let him go. Same thing we've been seeing in America forever. From the Foreign Post, Iran nuclear risk seen higher than before Trump attacks began. The IAEA warns, and this is right before this thing that came out with Trump in the past 24 hours, the war has created a new nuclear dilemma that didn't exist before. So think about what they said. I said this was the Foreign Post, it's the Financial Post. But think about what they said. We went in and tried to take care of a nuclear problem that nobody has been willing to deal with for the past 40-some years. Nobody. Trump goes in and he works against it. He blows up a lot of nuclear sites, and now they're saying it's worse off than before Trump went in. In other words, we should have just left the status quo, and we should have just let Iran eventually do their own thing and build a bomb. That is what they are in essence saying. From Mail Online, Minnesota Target store converts fitting rooms into Muslim prayer spaces that shoppers are banned from using. Target. Okay, I haven't gone to Target in years and years and years. They are at the very head of every bad agenda in America. If you go to Target, that's your business, but they will never get a penny of mine. Ever again. From Mongolia. From Open. This is really important stuff here. I hope that you're taking notes. Flight Mongolia, Kazakhstan open up new opportunities for travel and business. Yes, Mongolia and Kazakhstan. The new route represents an important step in the development of transportation infrastructure and the promotion of tourism and business relations between the two countries. Establishing regular air communication will open new opportunities for travelers and entrepreneurs. Travelers will be able to take advantage of 6 direct flights a week between the two capitals. So suppose you want to go to Mongolia on vacation, and then you absolutely need to get to Kazakhstan for your next business meeting. You can now go to Mongolia and then directly to Kazakhstan. Okay, so that's important for you people that are doing that kind of thing. From Daniel 12 Technology. From Fox, AI robotic beehives installed in Florida community claim 70% reduction in colony collapse threatening crops. This is one of the most important issues that we have going on in the world, not just in the U.S., in the world. What is it that pollinates 90-some% of everything in the world that we eat? Bees. And they have been having collapsing of their colonies for years now. I report on it once or twice a year. They have found a way of making 70% of that just disappear. Great technology. The technology arrives as bee populations across the U.S. continue facing pressures from parasites, pesticides, disease, and extreme weather conditions that experts say threaten agriculture nationwide. Bees pollinate, I said 90%, it's 75% of the crops we eat and about 80% of flowering plants around the world. The Bee Home system uses internal cameras, sensors, and robotic components to inspect hives and identify problems that traditionally require manual beekeeper oversight. The automated system monitors queen health, egg production, and infestations from varroa mites, one of the leading causes of colony collapse among honeybee populations. The technology can also respond automatically when hive threats are detected. We can treat them within the hive by moving them to a new part of the home that raises the temperature. It's enough to kill the mites, but not the bees. And there we can prevent that colony collapse and have shown basically a 70% reduction to what we're seeing naturally around the world. Project officials emphasize that the system is designed to support, not replace, traditional beekeeping practices as environmental pressures continue threatening bee colonies. Concern over declining bee populations has drawn increasing national attention in recent years, including expanded beekeeping efforts at the White House. Fox News Digital previously reported that the First Lady, Melania Trump, added new bee colonies to the White House grounds as part of an expanded pollinator and honey production program. Bee populations have become a growing concern for farmers and agricultural exports in recent years because pollinators play a critical role in food production and ecosystem stability across the U.S. My one question about that entire article is, does the White House sell their honey? Because if they do, I would love to buy one of them just to try it out. Okay, it's a dangerous world, including the inevitable plagues noted in the book of Revelation. From Fox, this goes back to something I reported a couple weeks ago. Tick bite ER visits hit the highest seasonal level in years as doctors warn of disease surge. Approximately 71 per 100,000 ER visits were tick-related in April, more than double the historical average. From Just the News, RFK Jr. unveils sweeping Lyme disease research containment treatment plan. Effort includes funding clinical research on products that may be able to stop alpha-gal syndrome, which can create serious allergic reactions to red meat after tick bites. Just the News, CBS News breaks media blackout on COVID vaccine injuries suppressed by Biden FDA. Now, listen to that again. CBS News breaks media blackout on COVID vaccine injuries suppressed by Biden FDA. 6 years. 6 years after the fact, they're breaking news, right? We've been reporting on that to the point where we finally left YouTube because YouTube was banning people for speaking the truth. Correspondent Major Garrett says he wants to have a longer conversation with Johnson about alleged cover-up after Wisconsin senator blames Biden FDA's rejection of better algorithm for safety signals. Johnson has been saying this for years, and they have called him a lunatic and everything except nice. And all of a sudden, CBS has breaking news for us. Zero Hedge, debug. Google seeks federal approval to release millions of mosquitoes in California and Florida. Google. Google. What?
No thank you.
Yeah, no thank you. Google. Mail Online. Outbreak of fungal infection at Laser Eye Clinic blinds patients. Yeah, if you're planning on laser eye surgery, maybe rethink it. Epic Times. COVID-19 vaccines may be causing cancer, expert says.
What?
No. Mail Online. Investigation launched after multiple female teachers working at a high school are all struck down with breast cancer at the same time. This is in Massachusetts, where every person in the state went out and got 57 vaccinations all at the same time. I wonder what might have caused breast cancer in all of those teachers at the same time. I wonder. Breitbart. Tedros demands end to Ebola travel restrictions, admits the World Health Organization months late to the outbreak. Oh, well then why are we even having them as an organization in the world if they can't identify when the worst threats to human existence? I mean, it's like 50% or 30% death rate if you get Ebola, and they're months late to it. Morality. New York Post. Dems replace mother. I'm sure you heard this because it made most of the news, but if you didn't, Dems replace mother with gestating parent in latest woke rewrite of New York law. A woke new bill erases the term mother and father from the state, child custody, and parental laws. All of the laws. A gender-neutral rewriting that's expected to spark a flood of similarly clunky legislation. Mother would be replaced with gestating parent, while father becomes non-gestating parent, or just a parent, in family court, along with in domestic and education law. Under the legislation, paternity Proceedings to determine a child's biological father would become parentage cases under the bill, which was rammed through the Assembly and of the Senate. A putative father, also known as a deadbeat dad, would now be called an alleged parent in official state records. Under the bill, which was sponsored by Liberals Senator Louise Sepulveda and Assemblywoman Amy Pauline, and will go to Governor Kathy Hochul's desk for approval. Are you glad you're out of that state? Yes, okay, good. I'm glad you're glad to be out of there. Guardian, new U.S. poll shows downtick in support for same-sex marriage and trans people because we have a reasonable person in the White House. Yes. Christian Post, Texas City sued over all ages big gay swim event with plans for gender-neutral changing rooms. From the Post Millennial, killer sentenced to 54 years in prison after violent stabbing murders committed just 2 days after previous jail release in Seattle. We're going to let him go. 2 days later, he stabs a bunch of people, kills them, and so now he's going maybe 54 years in prison, which in Seattle means that he'll be out in 30 days. From the Post Millennial, senior banned from Loudoun County high school graduation after speaking up about trans people in school bathrooms. She said, there's a guy looking at me while I'm dressing in the bathroom, and now she's banned from being in the Loudoun County high school graduation. Sweden Herald, Ghana's parliament passes anti-LGBTQ law. Great. CBS, divided appeals court rules Trump admin's ban on transgender military service is unconstitutional. So he can't run the military even though he's the commander-in-chief of the military. DHS, U.S. Coast Guard eliminates race-based preferences for commissioning of officers. Finally, Breitbart, Trump admin forgoes gay pride propaganda for the second year in a row. Got some other news here. Zero Hedge, mole people. Now, this is just one of those crazy articles that you have to wonder what's going on. Okay? Mole people. What are these individuals doing in New York sewers? New York City's vast underground network has become the unlikely focus of fresh alarm. Did you ever have this problem when you were there? You did, because it's still going on. Surveillance footage shared widely online shows teams of men lifting manhole covers in the middle of the night, descending into the sewers with flashlights, tools, and protective gears. They look like they're in a biohazard suit. They've got tools. They stop, they all get out, and they go down into the sewers, especially in Brooklyn. Yet their public message remains the same: no known threat to safety. That reassurance has failed to settle nerves in a city still scarred by past attacks and struggling under years of unchecked migration and progressive governance. When groups operate within apparent coordination in critical infrastructure after dark, the quick dismissal only fuels suspicion. Before I go on, the reason why I asked that gentleman from New York is because he was a retired police officer, so he would have seen these type of activities. The pattern emerged in recent weeks. In Gravesend, Brooklyn, footage captured one group removing a manhole cover on a McDonald Avenue. Several men in waders and boots emerged around 2 a.m. after hours below ground. A separate incident in Williamsburg saw another group enter a manhole near Bedford and Hayward around 1 a.m. and exit roughly 2.5 hours later. They're in the middle of the night. They're going down into the sewers with all kinds of gear and tools. An earlier sighting in Astoria, Queens, showed similar behavior. Witnesses described purposeful movement, gear suited for extended time in filthy, hazardous conditions, and vehicles staged nearby. The New York Police Department responded by sending its emergency service unit and K-9 unit underground to inspect the tunnels. The DEP also inspected and reported no damage to equipment. Officials stated they found nothing nefarious and floated the possibility that the individuals were simply urban explorers or treasure hunters. They're in the sewers and they're hunting treasure. Public reaction has been blunt. Many see organized teams operating in a sanctuary city that has taken in large numbers of unvetted arrivals. The same online conversation that once focused on mole people quickly shifted towards fears of reconnaissance, sabotage, or terrorism. Past terror attacks on New York infrastructure and the reality of foreign actors probing soft targets make the casual no-threat line ring hollow to those paying attention. Authorities correctly note that the unauthorized entry into the sewer system is illegal and extremely dangerous. Toxic gases, flooding, collapses, and confined spaces turn it into a death trap for the unprepared. Yet the absence of swift arrests or visible escalation to federal agencies has left residents wondering whether political optics or stretched resources are slowing a fuller response. New York's sewer network stretches for thousands of miles beneath streets, businesses, and sensitive sites. It's not some abstract curiosity. Coordinated nighttime access by unidentified groups equipped for prolonged underground movement is exactly the kind of activity that should trigger a serious security posture. The city's leadership, shaped by years of Democrat socialist priorities and open border policies, has repeatedly shown greater interest in managing narratives than confronting hard security realities. Coverage from major outlets has documented at least 3 recent nighttime incidents across Brooklyn and Queens, with police maintaining their assessment even as footage continues to circulate. Infrastructure protection should come first. Cities should not be left guessing about teams disappearing into vital systems while officials rush to label concerns as overblown. Residents in the affected neighborhoods have voiced what many feel. This does not look like casual scavenging. It looks like preparation. Whether the goal is valuables, mapping, or something darker remains unknown, and that is precisely the problem. From CMS.gov, CMS launches nationwide framework to implement Medicaid work requirements. Finally, certain adult Medicaid applicants and enrollees must, as a condition of Medicaid eligibility, meet an 80 hours per month work requirement through employment, education, work programs, or community services. Before I go on, Newt Gingrich, years and years ago, said the compassion on the left is the more people we can get onto welfare and Medicaid and government assistance. The attitude of compassion on the right is the number of people we can get off of welfare, Medicaid, and government assistance. That is a huge mental divide between the two. The rule establishes a nationwide operational framework designed to promote economic stability, self-sufficiency. I've got a grandmother that used to say, courteous and efficient self-help. That was, she had it posted on a wall. She wrote it with her own hand. Courteous and efficient self-help. We are people that should be helping ourselves, not relying on other people. And independence, issued under Public Law 11921, which CMS refers to as the Working Families Tax Cut legislation. The rule establishes the standards states must use to implement the statutory work requirement, including clear expectations for eligibility determinations, exemptions, verification, and state reporting requirements. It reflects extensive coordination with states and builds on CMS's ongoing work to modernize eligibility systems and improve beneficiary interactions with states while improving accountability. The new requirements could reduce poverty by as much as 2.9 million people, depending on a variety of conditions such as employment availability. It used to be that if you got any job when you were living in the projects, they would push you out of the projects because you made too much money to live in the projects. So it was the catch-22. They could not go to work, but then because they couldn't work, they were stuck in prison, in a virtual prison for their entire lives. I go to the projects every Saturday of my life, and there are 4 generations of people in some houses. Grandma, 55 years old. Daughter, 36-year-old. Son, 19-year-old, and the son has 2 or 3 children, all in the same house, all stuck in prison. Actually, it's slavery. It's modern slavery by the U.S. government. I see it every week of my life. The rule includes state data reporting requirements and establishes requirements for how states must assess and verify compliance and communicate the new requirement to Medicaid applicants and beneficiaries. These provisions are expected to promote transparency, reduce administrative burden, and ensure states provide clear, actionable guidance to new applicants and Medicaid beneficiaries on how to meet the new eligibility requirement. Good job. Reuters. Trump signs order to make it easier to fire 8,000 federal workers. Guess which ones? Scott Cooper, director of the OPM, which oversees the government's human resources policy, said the admin needs to employ people willing and able to carry out orders to achieve the admin's policy priorities. You can have any political views, but if you allow those views to basically interfere with your willingness to actually carry out lawful orders and policy directives within the admin, which the left has been famous for 40 years now, maybe 50, then this provides a mechanism, obviously, for those people in those agencies to be able to be removed effectively at will. The order shows Trump is persisting in his efforts to discipline and fire career employees who he sees as undermining his political goals. He's the president. He has a right to push his goals. A year after billionaire Elon Musk left his post overseeing an effort to slash government spending and payrolls. That is an error because that was about a week ago that this article came out. Elon Musk is now no longer a billionaire. He lost everything. Okay, that's not true. He's the first trillionaire in the history of the human existence. Trump believes his agenda was hampered by a career federal worker who opposed his policies during his first term. The number of workers affected by the order is well below a ceiling estimate of up to 50,000 workers who could have been made subject to the new rules. Senior admin officials on the call said Trump could expand the grouping but has no immediate plans to do so. Federal worker unions and their allies sued in January to stop the policy before it was fully developed. Federal judges paused the litigation while the Trump admin finalized changes. From CBC. The Pentagon designates its press office. This is great. I don't know if you heard over the past 4 or 5 months, maybe even longer. I've reported on it a couple times. They said we don't want the press in the Pentagon anymore because they've been leaking secrets. Okay, remember that. And so the New York Times sued so they could continue leaking secrets. And so what have they done? The Pentagon designates its press office classified space, making it off limit to journalists. The Pentagon press office has been redesignated as a sensitive compartment information facility. That's SCI. That's right below PRP, which is Personal Reliability Program, nuclear weapons. SCI is the highest, secret clearance you're going to get when you're usually in the military or things like that. Anyway, going on, due to speechwriters from the Office of the Security of War sharing the facility. They're in that office. They have SCI information they spread out and they talk about, and that is what has been leaked by these people. They've been doing it for years, and they want it stopped. These speechwriters routinely handle classified material. As a result, journalists will no longer be permitted to enter the office space. Gateway Pundit. California spending $49 million in taxpayer funds to give free solar panels and refrigerators to illegal aliens. Zero Hedge. Samsung joins Blue State exodus. Moves U.S. headquarters from New Jersey to Texas. The Hill, dangerous chemical plant disaster spotlight Trump's deregulatory efforts. Has everybody heard about the 2 chemical facilities? One of them caught on fire and almost exploded, and the other one collapsed and killed a bunch of people. So they come out and they say, this is harming America, what Trump is cutting back on safety regulations. The truth. The EPA said in a statement that the 2 recent West Coast incidents are not covered under its proposed changes to the risk management program. So it's a lie. Neither of these incidents fell under RMP regulations. Both, however, are highly regulated. So it was the people that did not follow the regulations that are already in place that caused those things to happen. Reuters, how Trump's Ukraine aid cuts undermine justice for Russian war crimes. So now Russian war crimes are Trump's fault.
Of course they are.
Yeah, it's all Trump's fault. Global warming, Trump's fault. Okay, who said it? Honesty is the first chapter in the book of wisdom. Begins with Thomas and ends with Jefferson. Thank you. Okay, got a lesric here for you. In New York, people's fear doth abound with respect to the dark underground. How can what's done at night be inherently right? Is it terrorists moving around? Okay, a couple of ironies here. I know death is sad. I always say that in advance because somebody's going to die. From the Post-Millennial, Ohio Costco worker is shot to death by customer for telling him not to enter the store with a gun. Yeah, I mean, he's just doing his job. Please don't bring your gun in here. And so the guy kills him. Mail Online. Texas woman astonished to realize stomach pains she thought were bad nachos were actually early labor contractions. She didn't know she was pregnant. Such is the world in which we live. So from Sarasota, Florida to Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, I'm Charlie Garrett, and that is your CG Prophecy Report for the week.